This is Tyrone Gathers Jr., your host of Sources and Live on KUAW, Knowledge, Understanding, and Wisdom. You can check out this broadcast on a number of ways, on a number of platforms. You can go to KUAW.org or
you got me up there now. It says the Lyne't Gray Show. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm rolling now. Okay. Hey y'all, how y'all doing? This is Lyne't with the Lyne't Gray Show here on KUAW Radio. We're Kansas City's first global community radio station. You're most likely watching and listening to Lyne't Gray Show and many of the other shows here on KUAW on Facebook. But you can also pick us up on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and the TuneIn app, as well as the Periscope app. TuneIn is listen only. So I had someone question me about downloading TuneIn, they couldn't see. TuneIn is like listen only. It's only for radio listeners. I would like to thank you all for your ongoing station donations to our ongoing station fundraiser. If you do not see the donations tab, what I tell people to do is it's somewhere up here or down there. And if you can't, just go to KUAW.org. Go to the actual webpage, KUAW.org, and you can donate there. I tell people that's the absolute best way that I think to do it. And you can put a recurring donation on there. So, hey, son, hey, Jamar, and hi, Miss Walker. Thank you for watching. Yeah, you can have, you can do, and I tell people, it can be as little as $5. It can be as big as 500 million. I mean, we ain't picky. What's her name? Melinda Gates, if you watching, the station does amazing things. So, hey, hook them up. But yeah, I appreciate you guys so much. We have some amazing, really serious things to talk about. Okay, we're going to start off first with congratulating Team ATG, Team Against the Grain, LLC, and they are a boxing organization. You all know them from Coach Court, from his daughter, the boxing ballerina, Brianna Epperson. They also have a new boxer. Please forgive me for not remembering her name, Coach Court, but she's showing out, y'all. She's showing out. She's winning everything that she's fighting in. Unfortunately, the boxer that we featured last year, she's not with Team ATG anymore, but I'm pretty sure she, Hollywood Danny is still showing out. I'm pretty sure she is. So we want to give them props and kudos. I want to let y'all know that my wardrobe is provided by Gino Booty. And no, this is not a night shirt, but it became one of my favorite shirts because it's so soft. It's like Daniel Davis's Positive Energy shirts. They put a lot into making sure that you get quality t-shirts. I think I've had this is the very first edition. He does his shirts like Jordans. Well, not like Jordans, because Jordan repeats the same style now and puts out the same stuff repeatedly. So he does his shirts like great albums. They only come out probably once in a while. So Gino Bowie, Stay Sharp Tees, JKNOWBUIE. I think that's how you spell it. And you can find him here on Facebook. He's a movie. He writes scripts for movies and directs and all of that. And he's got some amazing gear. I want to thank my watch viewers. Hi, Tashika. We're going to talk today about some things, y'all, and I want y'all input. Not everybody, but a bunch of people saw that I said that I am now Caucasian, wealthy, and 21. And that rubs some people the wrong way. I have inboxes of people saying, you're making fun of the transracial community. you're making fun of people who really feel like they are a part of the Black community. You're making fun. They made it seem like me as a Black woman, I do not have the right to change my race. So my question is, transracial, is that just for non-Blacks? Because I do remember the little Black girl being on Dr. Phil, and he was trying to convince her that she was Black. And she was telling him that she's Caucasian. And so my thing is, and yes, my inbox blew up from Black and white people saying, no, you're Black, you know. So it's not just the white people, but it was a lot of, you know, non-Black people who are like, you're crazy, you can't, you know, this, that, and the other, and don't make fun of trans people. They're trying to turn it a whole. I didn't say I was Caucasian, wealthy, white male. I didn't say that. I just said I was Caucasian, wealthy, and 21. Now, to me, that shows that there is a serious, serious bias against Black people. And this is just from the people who are on my Facebook page. We're not allowed to do the things other people do. And the reason why I'm addressing this is because it's an amazing artist. People need to go to his page, J.Q. Searles, S-I-R-L-S, I think. He's an amazing artist, and he brought me back to the Elijah McClain situation. And they always say things you cannot do when Black. We're going to address this today. Elijah McClain proved that you cannot tell people that they're beautiful people and I love you, specifically police officers, cops. You cannot say you're beautiful people and I love you and not be murdered. What can we do as Black people here in America? I took my son to see the Brown v. Board of Education site in Topeka, Kansas. And one of the things about it was around the corner, literally up the street and around the corner, is called the Ritchie House. The Ritchie House was an Underground Railroad house that was frequented by John Brown and ran by the Ritchie family. They were known for helping Black people, former slaves, I call them kidnapped and terrorized hostages, get away from slavery. And they were known all over the world. He came from, I think it said Chicago, Illinois, or from somewhere in Illinois. He bought a bunch of acres of land in Topeka. And that was where they brought the people through. They were safe. It has a story in front of the Ritchie House, the Ritchie House, the R-I-T-C-H-I-E House, Topeka, Kansas. It has a story about how he had to go ride. I love John Brown. John Brown was Malcolm X's favorite, one of his heroes. So that tells you about John Brown. John Brown said you can't reason with white folks, you got to kill them. He literally meant it. Him and his sons kicked off what is now known as the Civil War. They are the reason why they are part of the reason why we are free. John Brown, the Ritchies, several other people, Wendell Phillips, they used their white privilege to fight for those who were enslaved. I found out that Kansas did have slaves. There were some slaves in Kansas. Kansas was not always free, but majority of the people did not agree to it. So it became a border war between the slave owners and the Jayhawks. So that's where you get the name, the Jayhawkers. So that's where you get the name Jayhawks from KU. And that's funny because KU is one of the most racist institutions in the United States. That's crazy. The Jayhawkers would like roll over in their grave right now to know how KU acts. But I read the story about the Richies, and the Richies, when they found out that a group of people who were trying to escape to freedom, it was a husband and a wife team, they had been captured. The Richies gathered up arms and went and got them. I would love to have white people who, when they see their fellow white people, imagine Elijah McClain would still be alive. George Floyd would still be alive. You would have Trayvon Martin still alive. You get what I'm saying? I don't care what people say about what these people did. They were unarmed. They did not have weapons. They had no reason to be dead. Elijah McClain said, "You are beautiful people, and I love you." And then he apologized for throwing up because they were choking him to death. He couldn't breathe. When you read or see something like that, it infuriates you. And for a long time, I didn't put my 2 cents in. I already knew, what type of person he was, because I have a son that's like him. That's a real loving person and gentle person and won't hurt a fly. You get what I'm saying? And so I already know what they were going to come up with Elijah McClain. But at this point, as Black people, and I'm just going to let y'all know, as a child, my heroes were the Black Panthers. My Uncle Steve, God rest his soul, was a Black Panther. And he would sit there when he did come to our grandma's house. He would teach us about Black Panthers. My mother taught us. A lot of people don't like the word Black. A lot of people don't like the name Black. Don't call me Black, I'm African American. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. I am Black. I'm proud to be Black. I love the name Black. I cringe when you call me African American because Jesse Jackson named us that. But so many followers don't know that. They just know, oh, I'm African American. No, Jesse Jackson named us that. That was not our name. Remember, if y'all remember, Malcolm X called us Afro-Americans, like Afro-Latinos. We were Afro-Americans. We were not singled out as African Americans. And a lot of people say, well, you are African American. Well, you cannot get me to deny my heritage, because literally my last name is of Samoan descent. So I will not deny my mother. I will not deny her dad. I will not deny his parents. I won't do that. But needless to say, we have to address things that Black people can't do. I just realized when I said I'm Caucasian, wealthy, and 21, Black people can't be transracial, but Asians can. And do not come at me saying I'm being discriminative against Asians, because I'm Asian. Samoan Pacific Islander is considered Asian. Close your mouth. Okay, so Asians can, Europeans can, Latinos and Hispanics can. Blacks cannot. Caucasians can. We are the only people that are not allowed to be transracial. But I don't like Charlemagne the God, but he said something powerful. He said, Black people have a chokehold on the world. And we do. And people are so intimidated by us that they would hurt us. I'm going to tell y'all what sparked this. I had a guest, and my guest literally had to cancel. I pray that his dad, gets better and everything. But what sparked this was, I was at work today. Y'all know I'm a truck driver. I was at work today and I looked up and there was a little Black boy in his face. He looked about 12 in his face. He had the body of a college student, and he was sitting on the curb in north Kansas City, up by the airport. And I told him to come on. And he grabbed his ankle and looked at me like my ankle is hurt. But because I'm at work, I cannot stop and help him. But one thing I dared not do was call the police and say this young boy is sitting on the curb with his ankle hurt, because I did not want to be the one, even though he's supposed to get an ambulance and his ankle was twisted bad. It looked like it was broken. It looked like he was jogging and he hurt his ankle. He stepped off the curb wrong. I dared not call the police for this baby who needed help. And I don't think he had a cell phone. And all the white people behind me went straight and turned, and nobody stopped to help him. But as a mother of a Black son, and I was like, I can't help this baby. My truck has to keep going. I can't, even if I could pull over, you know, I'm still blocking up traffic because of the way the street is. I cannot help this baby. And it tormented me all day long because his ankle was twisted. But he was probably, I want to say, at least 5'10", 5'11", at least 170, 180 pounds. And all I could see was the racist fire department, because our fire department is racist. I can't say what I want to say, but they are as racist as they want to be. They truly are. Somebody needs to call them out. They call out the police department, but they don't call out the fire department. Our fire department is a bunch of racist guys who did not grow up around Black people, who do not know how to treat Black people. They are racists, just like our cops. The fire department is the police department, except for they more laid back, but they still just as racist. I did not want them. He was looking hurt. But unfortunately for me, I didn't want another Elijah McClain situation. And my stomach was in knots. It still is. I'm trying to stop from crying, y'all, because that baby was hurt. And it let me know to always make sure that my son has a cell phone and make sure he leaves with his cell phone, because he was sitting there on the curb without his cell phone, so he couldn't even call his family. And all the white people were just driving and looking at him, and then they drove by him. Now, when I came back, he was gone, so hopefully someone did help him out. But imagine feeling like you cannot help a child because you're afraid the police are going to kill him. Kansas City has murdered. Okay, here we go, because he's dead now. There was this cop that wanted to date me. He was from another, way larger jurisdiction. He wanted to date me back in 2017, and I was like, I don't date cops, and I sure don't. Excuse my language, y'all. Back then, sure don't date white boys. But he and I became close friends, and he told me the reason why he left the force was because he had to turn his head too many times while Black men were getting kicked in the face and bashed in the skull. And if you say something, then you're the enemy of the force. So he decided to go ahead and leave the force. He's the one who told me that when Black men apply to the force, he said the military police are as long as they have an honorable discharge, they walk into any police force or sheriff's department. That's what he told me. He said they have to have an honorable discharge, and they walk into the police department or the sheriff's department. That's what he told me. Okay. He said what happens with those applications is they'll put them through all kinds of exams, and then they'll give them a polygraph, and they pass the polygraph with flying colors, but they'll tell the men that they were, their test was inconclusive on something that they were being honest about. That is in order for them to keep Black men out of the force. So when you hear cops saying, oh, well, y'all not gonna have no cops to take care of nothing because I'm quitting. You have umpteen thousand Black men taking honorable discharge from the military every month of the year. We have, and these are military police. We have highly qualified Black men who can step into those positions like that. And they really don't have to be trained because they've been trained to the highest level. So the way the police department's trained, that's BS. according to the way the military trains their police. The military trains their police to neutralize an aggressive threat. You neutralize a threat. You don't neutralize an aggressive person. Do you wait for the person to pull the weapon, or you see the weapon and then you do what you have to do? Well, while I was dating that guy, well, I'll say dating because we talked a lot and he took me out to dinner. So I guess that's dating, huh? It wasn't nothing sexual. It was courting. We'll say courting. While I was courting him, he told me the system to getting away with killing or maiming a Black man. First things first. Now, they claim this man committed suicide, but he went into studying a certain police department. I'm not going to say which one. He went into pulling sunshine lawing what happened with their cops. And now all of a sudden, I haven't talked to him since 2017, but I read his page. And according to whoever posted on his page, he committed suicide. Okay, but here we go. You have to establish what they feel is something that would be excused by their superiors. What do they establish from their superiors? That they went to arrest someone, he resisted. He resisted arrest. Okay. When they got him down on the ground or whatever he was fighting or whatever, they got him down on the ground, tried to subdue him or tried to get him under control. He attempted to grab a police officer's gun. You yell, he grabbed your gun. Once you yell, he grabbed your gun, that gives you automatic rights to shoot. Y'all need to share this. Yes, Black men have been shot while they're laying on the ground with their hands in the air, on their back with their hands in the air. Black men have been shot while they were running from the police officers. Black men have been asked to produce their NRA card and blown away with a baby in the back seat. Black men have been choked out for selling cigarettes. Black men here have literally been shot for sitting in their car, in their own driveway, doing nothing. He was doing nothing. And he was sitting in his car in his own driveway. And the police walked up to him here in Kansas City and killed him in his car, unloaded in his car. Black men have been shot while running from the police officers. And the police said there was no gun. That officer who said there was no gun, when all the other officers said there was, he was let go from the force. So my question to us is, at what point, now we're in a position where we can't even call an ambulance for our babies. We can't call the police for help for our babies. Our children, our sons, our Black sons cannot walk up and say, hey, Mr. Police Officer, I need help. They're going to get blown away. What then? How do we fix this? Because they've made it very well known. And I put up that I was Caucasian, wealthy, and 21. And my inbox went bananas. Many of them were white people. There were some Black people who were saying, you know, you can't do that, you can't say that, this, that, and the other, blah, 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 whatever. But literally, what do we do? What do we do? I'm looking for answers here, because we have to, and my only issue is this. We have to, at some point in time, we have to teach our children the statutes and the laws for facing us. Oh, kudos. There was a Black man at a car wash. He had his son with him. He had his son recording. Me and my son observed the whole thing. He quoted laws and statutes to where the cops were paralyzed. The two officers that approached him tried to make him get out of his car, tried to make him give them his ID, tried to make him let them search. He began to shout Kansas City ordinances. And this man was not from Kansas City. He had an East Coast accent. He asked for the supervisor. The supervisor was on the scene. Another car came. They blocked off almost all the truths. And he started throwing our laws and ordinances at the officers to the point that when the officers went to go talk to the person about charging him with trespassing, he let them know the law and the ordinance for soliciting a trespassing charge. That's how we have to be. And at the end of the whole thing, they had to let him go. He cussed them all out, called them out their names, called their mamas out their names, and drove off. I mean, the display of power that that Black man had. He never handed over his ID. He never let them search his car. He made his son keep his camera phone on them. He never got in arm's reach of the police so they could say anything. Black people from Kansas City was like, hey, bro, just be quiet, just be quiet. And he was like, no, yeah, they do y'all like that. They're not going to do me like that. And so I just feel like we need to make sure that we are fully protected. People yell Black on Black crime. Needless to say, that's something. Okay, we're going to address that. But white people kill white people at a rate of almost 90%. So who talks about white on white crime? No one addresses white on white crime. White people who are killed by other white people at the rate of almost 90%. So it's the same numbers with Black on Black crime. So you really can't pull up the whole, well, police will respect us and stop killing us if we stop killing each other. Well, police are not killing white people, and they're killing each other at 90%. So that's something that we need to address. And so I began to today, it just kind of shook me to see that young, innocent, young Black man. And he was looking like, help. What can you do? And I honestly, I couldn't stop my my truck. That, you know, I would have gotten in a world of trouble for stopping my truck. But I couldn't even call the police to help him because I wanted to make sure the baby was still going to be alive. That's horrible. That's horrible. We need to figure out what needs to happen. And at this point, like I said, I've always been, y'all know I've always been the radical kind. Anybody who knows me know I've always been pretty radical. But I'm not saying run out and shoot nobody, because listen, I'm gonna tell y'all like this. Don't y'all listen to these stars in their cushy houses with their gated communities who ain't gonna bust a grape in a grape factory with some steel-toe boots on. They will hype y'all up to go do something to these police officers, and you'll be dead or spend the rest of your life in jail. I would prefer to see us be able to stop them with their own laws and statutes than to bury a young Black man or Black woman or see one in a wheelchair in Maine for the rest of their life. Because Kansas City Police Department, we used to have a man named Big Red. Big Red used to catch the guys. Anybody, I've seen it with my own eyes. Big Red used to be off of 63rd Street over there by Paseo, Troost, and Prospect. Big Red used to catch the young Black men, and he would pick one. Not even catch. He would pick one, just picking on somebody. He was a police officer. No, he wasn't a police officer. He was a cop. He was a Terry Law card carrier. That's what he was. Y'all look up the Terry Law, and y'all will know that anybody who follows the Terry Law has agreed to kill Black people. But anyway, they've agreed to hunt and kill Black people. Anyway, he would just pick a young Black man. He would tell him, if you can run, I'm gonna give you a head start. And if you can run and get away from me, I'll let you go. If you can't run and get away from me, when I catch you, I'm gonna beat your ass and you going to jail. These guys didn't even do nothing. They would not have done, I witnessed it with my own eyes. He gave a young man a head start. I was probably late teens. He gave him a head start. Guy took off running. They was like, Big Red gonna catch him. He too slow. I was like, what? And he was a fast runner. I guess that's how he trained himself to hunt young Black men on the Kansas City Police Department. We have what I call the Terminator. And I'm wondering if the Terminator was one of those women that was at the 63rd and Prospect gas station where the young man was jumped by police. Somebody yelled, he grabbed your gun while he had his hands behind his back and his shoulder didn't work. Somebody yelled, he grabbed my gun, and they shot him. And the cop accidentally got shot, probably from a ricochet. I'm wondering, because there were two women there, I'm wondering if one of those women was the Terminator. They call her the Terminator because she's killed several Black men and she's maimed. There's some Black men laid up in beds right now who can never move again because she's quick to pull the trigger. We have a problem. We have a problem in Kansas City. We have a problem when you drive by and see firefighters treating an injured Black person any old kind of way. We have a problem. I need for us to figure out in all cities what our ordinances and what our laws are. So now let's talk about it. What are the things that you can and cannot do while Black? Well, if you're Black, the older you can say Black and die. But you can find ways to educate yourself. This is just me being shook up after what I saw, and then me being afraid to call for help for the baby. I'm kind of glad my guest tonight didn't show up, because he's in an all-white suburb. And that's what I tell y'all about moving y'all kids to these suburbs too, man. Y'all got to stop that, because everybody drove by. I'm like, didn't nobody see him holding his ankle? Because I know I saw it. And I know I saw how messed up his ankle was. His ankle, he was twisted bad. And nobody stopped. Why? Because he was what? He was a young Black man, but he was kind of big. I remember the story of Michael Brown Jr. and Darren Wilson. They said Darren Wilson was some 5'9" police officer, and Michael Brown Jr. was some 6 foot blah, blah, blah thug. But when Darren Wilson did his interview for ABC News, he hit his head on the boom mic. He was that tall. And they said he was the biggest bully of that area. Darren Wilson and his mom robbed an old white couple blind while Darren pretended to be like a grandson to them. Instead of him going to prison, his mother took the fall for it and went to prison, but they went in, stole all their money, stole the checks, everything. He should have never been a cop. He should have never been a cop. He should have never passed the polygraph, period. I know people who they told them they failed the polygraph, and these people have done nothing. I know several people who they claim failed the polygraph. There is a famous comedian in Kansas City who signed up for Kansas City Police Department, and he said that they were so racist in the academy that he had to quit. We all know that's that pressure that they put on you to make you quit. That's that stuff that they warned Jackie Robinson about. We have to begin. We have to begin to learn these laws and statutes. It's not okay, y'all. It's not okay that our people cannot. It's not okay that we can't call the ambulance for our little Black boys. We can't call the fire department and the police department for our little Black boys who are sitting on curbs in white neighborhoods with twisted ankles for fear that he's going to wind up on the news dead. What kind of BS have we allowed as people. He should have the same right as any other nationality. If it was a little Hispanic or Latino little boy and I called the police, he would have been okay. If it was a little Asian little boy or Caucasian little boy and I called the police, he would have been okay. If it was a European and I called the police, he would be okay. But why is it that our young Black men might wind up dead after an encounter, an innocent encounter with the police? Like I said, the man who was courting me said that they give themselves what they call probable cause by jumping a person, making it to where you really cannot see the person's actions. They crowd them out. And then they yell, he's grabbing your gun. We got to do something about this, y'all. Something has to be done. We have to begin to teach our children the laws. If anyone out here wants to even start a meme where we post the ordinances for every city or county or something. I've been in my truck down in the BFE, Arkansas, and the sheriff pulled up and said, I don't know what broke, but I was pulling railroad. I was doing dump truck and I had a trailer. I was a Class A dump truck and I was pulling a railroad tear out. And I went over the railroad tracks and I think I might have broke the drive shaft or something, and they had to replace it because they had loaded me so heavy. And we're waiting on the repair truck. Well, I'm waiting. And the sheriff drove by and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I broke the drive shaft on my truck pulling over the railroad tracks, this, that, and the other, blah, blah." He said, "You talk to your boss?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You tell him he better hurry up and get this truck out of here." And I said, "Okay." He's calling somebody. He said, "You better tell him he better hurry up and get this truck out of here." And he was so serious. And I called my boss and I'm like, "Hey, I need help." He said, "I better hurry up and get this truck out of here." And the man was like, "Oh, well, he's a white man. He wasn't taking it serious." So he drives by again. And he says, "You tell him I said that he better get somebody down here to get this truck out of here." And he was looking very serious and he was sitting in his little patrol CUV. And so when the man finally gets there, I don't know, the young white man he said, "Come here." And the white man walks up to him. He said, "You get her ass out of here before it gets dark." And the young white man gets so incredibly terrified at what that man just said. It took him 3 hours to get to me. He's so incredibly terrified at what that man said that he calls somebody else, and they're out there working as fast as they can. And they had to follow me to the Arkansas-Missouri state line to make sure that I crossed over the state line, because when we got up out of there, nighttime had set. And he was like, "When you get this truck rolling, don't you stop. We're going to get you. One's going to be in the front, one's going to be in the back. You keep rolling. Don't stop. Put your hazards on. We're going to keep you rolling." I was in a sundown town and didn't know. They still have sundown towns in 2010, that wasn't even 2010, that was 2017. They still have sundown towns in 2017. What can we do while Black? We have become too complacent and too comfortable. We've forgotten the struggle of our elders and our ancestors. We've made it seem like we got it made. But when your Black behind can't be caught on a border town to Arkansas and Missouri after sundown, we have not progressed anywhere past the civil rights movement. We're naming streets and boulevards and statues and buildings and museums after Martin Luther King. But all Martin Luther King wanted was equality and justice. Justice. That's all Martin Luther King wanted. And here in Kansas City, we've named a street after him, but we have police officers who are killing Black men for sport. You have a chief of police who was caught being a KKK member from another state. How many KKK members are on the force? How is it that we have hardly any Black police officers or Black sheriffs or Black highway patrolmen when we have all of these young Black MPs exiting the military, taking their exit honorable discharge? How is it that majority of our Black men who are police officers are forced out of the force? Something needs to happen. Something needs to change. Kudos to our mayor. He's facing the police department head up. He's like, hey, we're going to reallocate. He's not defunding. He's reallocating money, which is what needs to be done. I say that they need to polygraph police officers every 6 months. You cannot have carte blanche to kill, maim, or do what you want to do. Unfortunately, and a lot of people, I hear a lot of my African brothers and sisters say, hey, y'all need to come over here to Africa. We ain't got no rights. See, when we do go to Africa, we still ain't got no rights. My ancestors, Black people are the longest running. Listen closely. I learned this from Mr. Maurice Copeland, Baba Maurice Copeland. He said, we are the only people on this land besides the Native Americans who actually belong. We're not descendants of immigrants. Our people have been here from day one. So when you look at it like that, we are the rightful heirs to this land. We were brought here. We didn't decide, oh, I'm gonna give me a better life and go to the US. Our ancestors were brought here against their will. So when you look at that, this is our land. Nobody's gonna run me out of my house. I'll go visit other places. I'll even have a house over here if I want one, and a house over there if I want one. But you're not gonna run me out of my house. And that's where we know now that we can't fight with guns like they did back in the day, John Brown and even Tupac Shakur. Big ups. He shot an off-duty cop who was terrorizing a young Black man. Big ups. We can't do that. Now, I heard in Georgia you can now, but be very careful. Be very careful with these laws. I feel like some of these laws are set up. But what we can do is we can learn their laws. We can learn their statutes. We can make sure our children are educated and such. Our children are very bright. So if they rehearse the laws and statutes for engagement with the police and what the police are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do, I watched that Black man. They were standing around like, what do we do? Call him in and this, that, and the other. And at the end of the day, they had to let him go. He stood there and took his time leaving, cussing them out, talking about their mamas. He called them every racial slur you could think of. There was a Mexican, there was an Irish, there was a white woman, he even got on the Black guy who was there. There was a white man. He dogged them all out. And there was nothing they could do to him. That's power. I will never call for someone to put their life on the line if I'm not willing to put mine on the line. I will always call for people to be educated, fully educated on laws and statutes and ordinances. My son witnessed with his own eyes how powerful that is as a Black man. We cannot continue to let our children, our grandchildren, our husbands, our wives, parents, we cannot continue to let our Black people walk around ignorant. And I will say this, If you, ignorance, what do they always say? Ignorance of the law is no excuse. Let's get this together, y'all. I would like to have a group of people who just like researching ordinances and laws, or talk to your city council people. I finally found a reason to talk to my city council, because I don't like bothering them. They're going through enough BS. I mean, seriously. Our city council is so racist, and they're so blatantly racist, and our people just don't support our city council. But our city council is so blatantly racist, it is like sickening. Kansas City is a really racist place. Y'all don't understand that. Everybody's like, oh, Kansas City's really, no, we are the south of the Midwest. We make Mississippi look bad, like literally. You know, we really do. People are like, oh, it's not that bad here. That's because you're not Black. I mean, honestly, that's because you're not Black. But I would like for us to get our ordinances together. I would like for us to educate our children. I would like for our children to be safe enough for us to call the police when they're hurting, you know, be able to get them help. I would like to see our police departments recruit our MPs, our Black MPs, who literally took an honorable discharge from the military. They should be able to, but they do recruit them, but the police academy is so racist that many of them drop. Many of them don't stay. I would like to see our fire department be held accountable for recruiting more Black men into the fire department. The Black men who are there are very few and far between, but we have several capable. And it's crazy because I look at the firemen that they did hire, that they do hire, and I'm like, they ain't even in shape. But you got all these young Black men who I know should have been in the fire department. They're in shape, physically, like capable of doing the job. And they're like, oh, you didn't pass this test and you didn't pass. To me, we need to start having accountability. I would like to know the percentage of Black people who are who encounter our police department here in Kansas City. I would like for the names of the police department, the police officers who have shot, maimed, or anything, put them in the hospital, any of that. I would like to have those officers' names released. I mean, we deserve that. We deserve to know who the officers are. Another thing I will say to all of our Black people, stop, like, we don't know what the men look like who killed Breonna Taylor. We don't even know their names. I could tell you Breonna Taylor. I could tell you who she looks like, what she looks like. I cannot tell you what the cops look like or what their names are who killed Breonna Taylor. We all know Darren Wilson, but we don't know what he looks like. None of us know Philando Castile. We know he was murdered by an Asian cop. We don't know what he looks like. We don't even know his name. So at this point, we need to turn the tide and stop putting up the faces of the people who were murdered and put up the faces of the murderers and put up their names and put up their police department and put up their badge numbers. That's what needs to happen so that we can recognize these people on the street. Because where that kind of hate comes from, it comes from a mama, it comes from a daddy, and it comes from the wife and their children. That type of hate is not just one person. Somebody bred that type of hate. And for you to kill somebody who says, you're beautiful people and I love you, your mother was a monster. You can't convince me she wasn't. Y'all got to remember, the laws protecting people from killing slaves was written for the white women. They were killing the slaves, and people say, oh, they were killing the slaves. No, they were killing the slave children. My great-great-grandmother told my great-grandmother told me. My great-great-grandmother was the slave master's daughter in Alabama, the Leverett plantation or Leverett or Levert or whatever. And Massa's wife hated the fact that he had children by this dark-skinned Creek Indian that he enslaved. And my great-great-grandmother said Massa's wife would take her hands and wrap her hair. My great-great-grandmother had hair past her elbows. She would wrap, my great-great-grandmother was a little girl. She would wrap her hair up in her hands and fling her all over the floor, bamming her head up against the wall and beating her while she's supposed to be cleaning up. You're doing this to a little girl. What if she died? Bamming her head on the stairs, bamming her head on the floor. So mindsets like this are passed down. That's what the Bible calls iniquity, learned behavior. This mindset didn't die back then. And that's not a long time ago. That's not a long time ago. It's barely 200 years. So when you have women, and you got to remember, sharecropping was slavery. It was slavery extended by another name. They still whipped those people. They still didn't pay them. They still lived in slave cabins. It was slavery by another name. So sharecropping was way past the 50s. You got men riding around on horses hitting people who ain't bent over picking cotton. And some of these people are in their 70s now and 60s. My daughter's grandmother would be in her 70s right now. And she told me the stories about picking cotton and running from white men and on horses and trying to hurry up and get, yeah. So slavery just continued as sharecropping. So if she was born in the 1930s or 40s, then literally you have people still alive who were basically slave masters. Their children are still alive. Their grandchildren are still alive. At some point in time, we have to acknowledge this and quit playing games. What are we going to do to keep our people safe? Education. Number 2, start putting up the faces, the names, the badge numbers, and the police departments of the murdering cops. Yes, in memorial of such and such, this person murdered them. He was sworn to protect and serve, and he murdered who he was supposed to protect and serve, or she murdered. Start putting their faces up, and it's not for nobody to go attack them. It's for us to recognize when we're in the presence of a murderer who can kill us. I want you all to please take this into consideration. This is just me being totally transparent with people. It bothered me that I couldn't call the police for that baby because I was afraid if he was going to be alive tonight. And his ankle was hurt. It was hurt bad. So hopefully some caring person looked at his ankle and helped him, because he was gone when I came back. So I'm pretty sure somebody's mama was like, oh no, that baby's hurt. Even though he was a big guy. He was only about 12 or 13. You look in his face. His body looked like a college student, but the baby, he had a baby face. He was somebody's baby. And we have to make sure that our children will grow up in a world that will respect them. How do you do that? Start teaching them the laws. Start teaching them the laws. Start paralyzing these officers with the law, not with cussing and going off and yelling and acting a fool and being loud, not with I don't have to show you nothing. But when you say I don't have to present to you, you say statute, Kansas City statute, such as a Kansas City ordinance, such as a state of Missouri ordinance. The way that man did it, he led off with the ordinance, and then he told them the reason why he didn't have to obey them. And his son was recording the entire time. And I watched them. And it was so funny because when we went to leave, the cop car was in the way. And I was like, hey, we trying to get out, but I ain't trying to pay for that cop car. So somebody need to move it. They all were so nice. They were skinning and grinning with me. I'm like, I ain't never had no cop be that nice to me. Well, yeah, I have. When I got arrested a couple of times, they just put me in the front seat. They knew I wasn't mad at them. I wasn't gonna do none of them. But I mean, like, just when it's a situation like that, they normally go off on every Black person who comes around. But he made it safe for us to be able to travel because they knew we heard everything. I will ask everyone watching, anyone who watches this, let's stop sharing pictures of the murdered people, start sharing pictures of the police officers who decide to maim and murder. We need to be able to recognize those people with our own eyes. They shouldn't be able to blend into the crowd and we not say, hey, ain't that such and such who killed such and such? We already can recognize the victims. We need to recognize their murderers. I want to wish everybody joy, love, peace, happiness, health, wealth, well-being, total enlightenment, prosperity, success, affluence, and a whole bunch of money. And once again, congratulations, Team ATG. This is the Lyne't Gray Show here on KUAW. Knowledge, understanding, and wisdom, Kansas City's first global community radio station. I want to thank you all. I will see you next Tuesday, God willing, next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time here on KUAW. Take care.